Welcome to the Secrets of Confident Women podcast, where you'll learn all the best tips, tricks, and practical techniques for building the confidence levels you've always wanted. With inspiring interviews, real-life examples, and game-changing insights, this podcast is for women who know that mastering the skill of confidence is one of the most important things they'll ever do.
Hello everyone and welcome to this week's episode. I am so excited about today's conversation about thriving in your 50s because I am a few months off turning 50 and I'm not afraid to say that I'm having a small meltdown about it all, really. It feels like a little bit of a turning point. It feels a little bit scary. And I do feel that I've been questioning my life just that little bit more. So I really wanted to bring this topic to the podcast because I know that I am not the only one that has these thoughts as the big 5-0 approaches. And my expert on this topic today is the wonderful Anne McKeown, who I met when we were both guest speakers on a webinar talking about women's empowerment. And I just loved Anne's story. Anne is a highly regarded mindset coach and the founder of To Empower Coaching. She specialises in empowering women to step up, speak up, and show up in their life and work so that they can enjoy more success and happiness. She's developed a step-by-step process for success that she shares with individuals and groups. Her main driver is to be a good role model for her two daughters, Maris and Megan, which is the two M's in To Empower. And she is a published author of her book titled Take Back Control of Your Life Now. Plus, she is the founder of Sydney's Women's Self-Empowerment Meetup Group, which has over 600 members. I can't wait for this conversation today. So, Anne, I'm thrilled to welcome you to the Secrets of Confident Women podcast.
Oh, good morning, Jodie, and thank you very much for the invite. I'm delighted to be here.
Thank you. And I loved, as I said, we were on a webinar together and we've sort of been introduced to each other a few different times, but I just loved your story. And as I said, part of the turning point I'm really coming to at the moment, and I think we all, so many of us come to, is this big 5-0 and start questioning our life. And I know that, we're going to talk today a little bit about your experience through that and how you successfully navigated this whole area. So thrilled to do this topic today, but let's start off if you just tell us a little bit about yourself and your business.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for the opportunity to do that. So you can obviously tell I'm from Scotland from my accent. I have been living in Sydney in Australia for about 14 years and absolutely love it here. So my husband has an English accent and my kids have Australian accents. So we don't sound like a family. It's quite funny. And I work as a coach, as you said earlier, empowering women and really because I myself, as you mentioned, was struggling and had to try and find ways to kind of deal with life. And one of the things that I think we've got in common is that often we see with women that they lack confidence.
Yeah.
And for me, the confidence was showing itself, or lack of confidence, in different ways. Like I wasn't speaking up and I wasn't putting my hand up to volunteer for things or stepping into my genius zone and whatever. And I realised there were lots of other women that weren't doing that too.
Yeah.
And actually my background was as a sales coach with a large oil company in the UK. And what I learned through that was the same people were successful all the time. And it was never about whatever product we were selling or promoting. It was about their mindset around it.
Yes, right.
And that sent me down the path of, in the 90s actually, so it was a long time ago, learning NLP, which is neuro-linguistic programming, and how our thoughts and our language affect our emotions and feelings and behavior, and that affects our outcome. And then to realize that the position that we're in life, we've created for ourselves. That was such a hard kind of pill for me to swallow at the time, and for other people to realize as well.
Yeah.
And so the whole thing of changing the mindset just became a real passion for me.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've got a similar story in that just that whole the mindset and the study that goes around that. I didn't do NLP, but we did other areas because it is so fascinating and it is a hard pill to swallow. But geez, it's a powerful one when you get it, when you can just take control and really it's unfortunately the reality that we are in charge of our own mindset, and it is that mindset that is leading the way in whether we're having a successful life or not. So it is a hard pill to swallow, but if you can do it, and it just takes so much more control over everything in your life, don't we?
Yeah, yeah. Oh, once you swallow it and you get it, it's a sweet ass.
That's right. Maybe we should call it a nice like Jube lolly or something instead of a pill. But yes, it's a hard one to swallow. So what does confidence, this was a question we ask all our guests coming onto this podcast, what does confidence or being a confident woman mean to you?
Look, for me, I found confidence when I started to feel happy on the inside.
Yes.
When I started to just feel at one with myself, and it definitely came around the menopause and the turning point. I looked back and realised I'd spent years trying to be what other people wanted me to be, or achieving goals other people had set for me, or just not being true to myself. And so unconsciously, I mean, I wasn't consciously saying I'm going to be a people pleaser. But it just was kind of my nature, and I suppose the way I got my reward or acceptance in life. But I wasn't confident being like that. And I think the real confidence actually comes, we talk about taking back control of your life, which, as you mentioned, is the title of my book. But actually, we get back control when we give in, when we give up, when we let go, when we and we can actually be true to ourselves. So that's when I feel that just a sense of contentment on the inside. Yeah,
absolutely. And when are you the most confident version of yourself?
Look, I think when I'm playing to my strengths.
Right, yeah.
That was something else that I realised. I was constantly striving to be good at the things that I wasn't good at. Right. And that helps our confidence, because we always focus on what we're failing at.
Yeah.
And when I changed that focus to be, well, what am I naturally good at? What do I find enjoyable and easy? If I play to that, then that feeds my confidence because I get good results, and then I feel better about myself, and then that content feeling and happy feeling on the inside grows stronger, and then you have this lovely cycle of positivity.
Yeah. And that's such a great point, because we do so often, it's like we look for, well, where can we improve? Where can we get better? But then if you're constantly focused on that area, then that's all you're seeing, isn't it? You just start seeing the gaps of what you're not doing and what you're not achieving at.
Absolutely.
Whereas, again, it's that mindset shift to just start looking at the other side. Like, I know there's a lot of mindfulness, that stuff around now, and doing, gratitude and all those sorts of things. And it seems like it's very, in the market to be doing that. But it's really just trying to shift your brain or shift your view to start looking at the strengths, as you say, or what's going well for me, and what, one of my favorite quotes is, what you focus on expands. And it is sometimes checking in, and I check in on myself all the time to go, if I'm seeing all of this, if I'm seeing all the negative, or if I'm seeing where life's too busy, or if I'm seeing where I'm in overwhelm, then I've got to go back to, that's the focus I had to start with, because then that's what is expanding in my world, right? But it's absolutely. That, you've got to try and look for the strengths and play to those, as you say, to really increase your confidence. I love that.
Yeah. And it's what makes each of us unique.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So your story is so relatable. You were in corporate, then you became a stay-at-home mum, as so many of us did. You gave yourself to everyone, as so many of us do. You juggled too many demands, as so many of us do. You got exhausted, became stuck. You were lacking purpose and direction. Your outlook became negative, and your confidence hit an all-time low. And I think this is so relatable to so many people, because we do have these turning points. Sometimes it happens at 50, sometimes it happens earlier, what have you, or later, but it is this turning point. So when you hit that turning point, you really decided to get yourself back on track. So how did you do this? What was this catalyst that pushed you through?
Yeah, well, I have to say, first of all, it wasn't a kind of 1 minute decision and an overnight success.
Yes, no.
It was over a period of time. I think when the expression, 2 steps forward, 1 step back is very appropriate, because the conscious mind wants to push us forward 2 steps, and then the unconscious wants to keep us safe and drags us back. And I realized that I had got in a real state when I had become a bit of a martyr, because I used to say to my family, I'm like Cinderella. I'm the only one that does the cooking, the cleaning and the tidying. And he expected me to be happy and singing with the birds, and I'm sick of it. And as the kids got older and weren't needing me so much, and I just felt, well, why are they not contributing? Why am I still looking after them as if they're toddlers? And I think the change in hormones and things just affected that phase where I sort of started to think, well, what about me?
Yes.
And I knew that I had been successful in my earlier career, and I had chosen to. We moved to Spain, we lived in London, I had 2 kids, I wanted to get married, I wanted to have a family. So I had made and accepted all those choices. So then it was, well, why am I blaming everybody else for where I am? And I was becoming a bit miserable to live with, to the extent that I actually didn't even really like myself. I was irritated with myself. And I did have a bit of a crying on the kitchen floor moment where I just thought, this is terrible, because, you know, we live in a beautiful part of Australia. I actually have a great husband. My kids are wonderful. And, you know, I really didn't have any problems, and other than seeking meaning and purpose, I think.
Right, yeah.
And so I decided to reach out for help, and I actually went to see a life coach.
Yeah.
And I spoke to her, and I just said, you know, I've hit 50. I used to do NLP. I did positive psychology all through the 2000s. I actually had also worked in a high school with kids when my children were young, helping them find a path. It was kids that struggled and had no direction, and they were then a nuisance in the class, and so the teachers would get me to coach them, to give them direction. And it's funny, because I knew all the theory, but I wasn't able to do it for myself.
Yes.
And so I went to see this coach, and she said, get together all your material and see if you can reach out and help other women, because you can't be the only one feeling like this. And actually, I thought I was, and I wouldn't talk about it, because externally, and this is where the false confidence comes in, people would look at me, and I'm quite a people person. So when I'm out in a crowd, I would be jolly and having fun and volunteering at school or whatever. But when I was at home on my own, I got quite depressed.
Yes.
And nobody really saw that side. And she said, and so I was a bit ashamed of that, and thought, well, everyone else seems to be getting on with life. And she said, no, I don't think that's the case at all. And obviously the life coach, she would have seen a lot of that.
Yeah.
So then she said to me, you know, why don't you start a business and help other people? And I said, oh, I couldn't do that. I have no idea about tax. I wouldn't know how to employ people. Technology's moved on. And of course, then all the fear and doubt and all the things that I couldn't do. You notice how I suddenly went to all the things that weren't my strengths.
Yeah.
And
as we do, right? Because that's what the fear brings forward, all the things that, oh my God, it's too overwhelming. I'll never work this out. It's too much. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And she said to me, bring it right back. And she said, ask some friends. She said, don't do anything with friends and family, but just ask them if they know of any women that are struggling, and see if you can reach out and help them. So it gave me direction, which was the first thing. Wow. The other thing was that somebody had listened and understood. That was huge for me. Yeah, because my family didn't get it, and they weren't able to help me even if they'd wanted to. And so I came home and I was going through all my material, and I did reach out to a few ladies who introduced people to me, and we started having conversations. And then someone told me about meetup groups, and I had never heard of that, but I Googled it, and it said it's a way to get people together for any topic. And I thought, well, I could just get these women together. But I didn't want it to be that it was women getting together and just moaning and bitching about what was wrong. I wanted it to be, because I was doing a really good job of that all by myself. Yeah. I wanted it to be, you know, uplifting, and that we could make a difference and learn from each other and stuff. So that's why it was called the Self-Empowerment Group. And I had 60 ladies sign up in the first week.
Wow. That is a call, isn't it? That's just a wake up of, you know, there are so many people in this same place.
Yeah.
But we're all isolated at home trying to work it out, thinking it's just ourselves. And I'm I mentioned at the beginning, having the same types of things, but on the outside, it's like, oh, it's all going well, and I've got great kids and great husband and a great house, and it's all and business and everything looks fine.
All
but
external.
but there's something when I'm with myself going, there's just something not quite happening. Like there's a real, as I said, there's sort of like a turning point or something that is just like, what am I doing with my life? Am I on track? Is like there's a lot of questioning going on, and I'm sure that's happening for so many people.
So many.
Yeah.
And so that was actually a lightning moment for me. And so I arranged just to get together in a local community hall with these ladies, and we would talk about where are you at and what you're going through and whatever. And that in itself was very cathartic and therapeutic. But then I started to share the NLP techniques. I was like, have you guys never heard of this? Have you never done that? Let's do a technique. And I'd be drawing things up on a whiteboard, and so I then kind of unwittingly became the leader of this group. And we met in person every month, and ladies then started to say to me, look, I don't want to share in the group with everybody, but would you coach me individually? And I was like, yeah, sure. So they would come to my house, and we had a little TV room that just had a sofa and a TV in it. And I'd sit there and I'd go through my material. And then I started to learn how to market and get a bigger audience. And I put together an online program and, videoed myself and whatever. And so it's sort of grown from there. And then these ladies were saying, well, now you've made a business out of it and you're making money. And how did you do that? And so I can now help them with the actual step-by-step of how I did that. And so it's just grown. What's interesting is I'm actually now doing what that coach said to me, but that was 6 years ago.
Yes.
At the time, there was like, no way. Yeah. But having done it stage by stage, year by year, the process has unfolded. Yeah. And I think sometimes we scare ourselves by thinking that we have to have it all, and we have to have it now, and it needs to be correct. Yes. It needs to be right.
Yeah. And I was saying this to a client the other day, actually, because she's starting a business. And I said, where I started and where I thought I was going when I started business is not where I am now. So it's because things unfold, and if different ladies turned up to that meetup group, it might have taken you in a slightly different direction, and they might have had all different things you sort of discover along the way. But you've just got to get started, haven't you? You just got to start walking the path, and then Pete, you're introduced to someone who says, oh, well, how about you come over here, or how about you do you want to do this? And it unfolds as you're going, but you have to be on the path, walking, moving forward, right? You can't. It doesn't come to you. It doesn't come and seek you out and go, hey, I think you'd be great at this, but you got to be moving forward. But yeah, it unfolds, but that's taking it into chunking it into smaller steps. So it seems more doable, but it does keep you moving and starts that momentum flow when you're starting business.
Yeah.
Wow. And where was it for you was it being involved with these women and connecting that, it's not just me? Was that the real sort of awakening for you that had you be able to change your mindset and go, I do have some purpose now, because it is everyone, like where you were in that negative mindset isn't a problem. It's just a natural thing that sort of comes along, and you've got to then put the work in to get yourself out of that place.
Well, I think that there were two things actually with hindsight. I didn't really realise it at the time. And one was that I knew I was being a negative role model for my girls.
Right.
And that's why they were the two M's, Madison, Megan, in the 2M Power, because they were reaching, year 10, 11 high school. And I had this beautiful home, and I was having coffees and lunches and walking the dog and whatever, and I was frigging miserable. and moaning, and they're going to school, and I'm saying to them, you can be anything. Yes. Just put your mind to it. And I was giving them all the theory, but I wasn't walking my talk. And so a big part of it was, golly, now, and when they started university, and I started running my business, we were both on a path of new challenges. And it was actually great to be able to, for them to see, oh golly, sometimes parents struggle too. You know, I think they think, oh, parents have got it easy and they know it all and they don't need to do exams, and they don't they don't realise that, you know, if you get out of bed in the morning, you have to give yourself a big tick, you know.
Yes, exactly.
And I think the other thing was being able to help other people. I've realised that my type of personality, as in playing to my strengths, is that I really like people. Like I love hearing people's stories and what they've been doing with their life and what makes people tick, and, you know, cultures and all that kind of thing. And I also need to be needed. And so that group helped me to feel needed and to rediscover my strengths.
Yes. So it's that focus again, shifting that focus on not what you were lacking, but what you could offer and what your strengths were.
And that built my confidence. And so it's, you know, kind of a positive cycle that I got into. And just belonging to a community, because I think what I didn't realise was how hard it would be when the kids were leaving school and not wanting you to be involved in things anymore. Like I wasn't then seeing the mums at the netball game or the swimming lessons or the, you know, dance classes or and so suddenly all of that was gone, and we hadn't been here when my kids were really small, so they were new friends for me, and it was kind of like a lot of these new friends then had gone back to work or had moved to another location to be near a new high school, and so I just felt as if everything had kind of was disintegrating around me, and I was just feeling lost.
And it's these sort of time changes throughout, you know, we think, wow, you know, having kids, everyone says, oh my God, having kids will change your life dramatically. And it did. But I don't think enough is sort of talked about, or we don't realise that there are these other big changes when the kids, as you say, start, you know, not needing you as much or whatever,
and then
that community or that group around you does start to disintegrate because everyone's moved on with their own lives, and then I wonder if that is just a big, and you know, whether it's happening around this sort of late 40s, 50s area, depending on when we've sort of started having children, whether that's a real turning point and a real thing that we haven't realised is about to happen, you know, and it's sort of it shocks you to go, oh my God, nobody needs me here. And where's, you know, our friends? And I don't know about you, but I'm sure, you know, when I had sort of the, you know, the mums at soccer and we used to be involved in a great play group, and when my kids were small, just that weekly connecting with other mothers that are like, oh, I'm going through the same thing when, you know, you've got small babies and you haven't slept for a week and you're like, oh my God, it's just me. And then you go to the play group and everyone's like, oh no, it's me too. And everyone's in the same place, you know, but you need that connection for that other people to say, yeah, I'm 50 and I'm struggling and my life's disintegrated and I've got everything seemingly on the outside, but geez, I'm miserable. And if you're not connecting and having those conversations, you do feel isolated. You know, you start to think it's only you, and it's just not, is it?
So no, it is a stage that's not talked about enough.
Yeah, and I know that you know, menopause is another big topic, and I know there's been a lot of media recently about trying to talk more about menopause. I know there's a few sort of celebrities that are trying to sort of shine the light on, you know, perimenopause and all these things. And I'm going through all that at the moment, and it's amazing how much nobody talks about it, right?
Yeah.
And, you know, I talk to my girlfriends, you know, and they're like, oh my God, is that, you know, some of them who haven't sort of started perimenopause yet, and they're like, really? Is that what happened? You know, and it's like, I didn't know any of this was going to, you know, come about or what have you. Yeah. So that's another big shift in life change that is kept secret somehow, or you just don't, you know, maybe we're not connected as much to our women friends that we're not talking about it as much or something, but it's a struggle. Yeah. It's a real big turning point and a real big change for us.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it really hits your confidence. It really does
take a hit. Hugely.
Yeah. So why do you think many of us, apart from maybe, you know, starting menopause and all these sort of changes and stuff, why do you think so many of us hit this magic 50 and start to question where we're at our worth, or whether, you know, that we're feeling stuck?
Well, I think one thing that happens is that we think, well, how much longer have I got to live?
I do.
Because it really is
It is.
midlife, you're halfway through. And I mean, at 50, it's like, well, am I going to live to 100? We're probably more than halfway through.
Yeah.
So I think there's a bit of a reality check. And where your life when your kids are young is so busy, and even if you haven't got children, if you're a woman that's really focused on your career and you've climbed the corporate there and you've had that routine and people have listened to you and everything, and then you sort of think, well, maybe by the time I'm 60, I'm going to retire. There is an end in sight for a whole lot of things.
Yeah.
And I think fear of the unknown, like, you know, it's why so many people go to fortune tellers. They want an answer in the crystal ball, and there isn't one. So I think that the uncertainty is a huge shift. But what I have noticed with a lot of women, it was definitely for me, was the change in hormones. Yeah. Because we become less feminine, I suppose, when we have less estrogen and more testosterone. And I suddenly became like, the speaking up, I was like, well, I'm just not doing it anymore. And I would never have said that in the past. I would have gone, oh, I'm selfish and I'm, you know. Yeah. And I remember my husband came home one night and he was kind of, he'd had a really hard day at work and there was this problem with the traffic and blah, blah, blah. And he was just kind of having a wee moan. And I went, well, welcome to my effing world. And I don't swear. And and he was shocked because I just let out this big, you know, it was like this monster within me that just had to get out. Yes. I just couldn't be sweet and nice anymore. And then afterwards I was like, oh my God, where did that come from? And it definitely came from a hormonal change. Yeah. But what I would like to say to anyone listening is that once you're through the menopause, oh my goodness, it's like going back to being the teenage girl that you were before you had periods. It's just lovely. And you just feel nice and calm all the time. Oh, you just level and you don't have all those ups and downs. And I think the hormonal thing is huge for women. Yeah.
And it's, as we said, it's not being talked about enough to realize what
it really affects our emotions.
What happens. And I sort of go back. I've had some of those moments too where I've just exploded into this unreasonable. I'm not even swearing at something that's worth swearing at. I'm just you know, it's because the chicken didn't cook properly or something. And it is, but I sometimes go back to thinking that they used to lock women up, you know, put them into mental asylums.
It's true.
Not understanding this life change, thinking this woman's just lost her marbles. And I go back to that going, if you don't understand what's happening, you would think, why has this really nice, sweet housewife just turned into an absolute, you know, crackpot? But I sort of have to remind myself that that's you know, that's part of this process. That is it's natural part. You know, I'm seeing a great Chinese medicine man to sort of help even things out, and he sort of said to me, "I can't cure you because there's nothing wrong. Like this is natural. Right. We can help you. You know, we can help even things out and make sure everything's working properly, and you know, to support it and make sure the night sweats aren't too bad and things like that. But there's no cure because this is a normal, natural part of, you know, of life.
And we think there is something wrong because of the messages that we get from society around, Botox, you know, don't go grey, get your boobs done, they're sagging, get a tummy tuck, you know, all of it. Our grandmothers would be going, oh, for goodness sake, what you on about? I mean, they would be laughing at us at the amount of money that we spend and the amount of worry that we spend, and that, you know, in those days, you know, it was women of wisdom. And this was another turning point for me, was I had a girl come to see me and she was early 30s. And we were working through some of her issues and confidence and stuff. And she said to me, Anne, it's so good to have an older woman to talk to that's been there and done it. And I'm looking over my shoulder going, where's the old woman? You know, oh my God, she means me. You know, and I thought, and I'm at 25 years older than the girl. And I thought, So then at first I was a bit, offended. And then I thought, no, I'm going to take this as a positive and see myself as a woman of wisdom.
Yes.
We should be able to help the next generation.
Absolutely.
And our grandmothers should be respected more.
Yeah.
And we've lost that in society, where all the focus is on the kind of young and the beautiful.
Yeah.
And even they're not happy because they feel the pressure.
No, I know. Absolutely.
It's like, come on, society, let's just take people at face value and allow ourselves to be ourselves. And we would just all be so much happier, and we'd have more money and less pills. It would,
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
I've got a funny story similar to that with the wake-up call that I said to my daughter. It was a couple of years ago, but I said something and I picked up something off the rack and she said, "Oh, do you like that, clothes-wise?" And she said, "Oh, do you like that, Mum?" I said, "Oh, no, it looks like someone would wear that who was over 50. And then I thought, "Oh, Jesus, that's nearly, I am nearly 50. Oh, my God. Like I got this, I still think I'm, 36 in my head or something. So I was like this, oh, my God, I am nearly 50. Like I've just, you don't sort of come to terms with that thing. But I think we should. It's just it's that mind change. And I think that's really valuable information you said, like, again, going back to the strengths. I mean, you're 50, like that's the reality. You can't change that.
Nothing you can change.
But you can change the perspective
it's better than
on
the
that.
alternative.
Yeah, exactly. You can change the perspective on that to be a woman of wisdom and what the strengths are that brings to you for this time of your life.
Yeah.
And I think interesting for me, something that comes up for me is when you were saying about that, how long have I got to live type thing, which is, look, it's more prevalent for me because my mum actually died at 52 and I was 27 when that happened. And I can remember thinking at 27, obviously, it was devastating and what have you, and it was sudden and a shock. But I remember thinking, but, she got to 50 and, this perspective from a 27-year-old, what someone 52 is doing. But now I'm going 50, thinking back to, what's still ahead for me in my life and what all the things I still want to do, and realizing that my mother had that as well. And realizing, I mean, everyone would always say, "Oh my God, she died so young," and whatever. And I think, well, yes, but she was 50. And now I'm at that point myself going, oh my goodness, like there's this real wake-up call for me because I just didn't understand what being like all the things there's still to do and all but there is this, maybe we do start questioning our mortality a little bit more because it's sort of, we're past that halfway point, I think that sort of questioning for me, because I've had that experience with my own mother, is at the forefront of a lot, some of the struggles I'm going through now, to go, oh my goodness, this is not okay for,
But also that was her life. It's not your life, and your life is different. So it doesn't mean you're going to have the same outcome.
No, that's exactly right. I think it's just that turning point of what someone at 50 feels and still wants out of life, and that we've still got goals and dreams, and I'm still building businesses like you, and we're still, doing lots of different things. But there is something around this, I guess retiring and finishing our work careers is now in sight. Actually, my husband and I were talking, I think this was like some last year or something, we're going to look at putting some money into an investment property or whatever. And my husband sort of said, we have to do something soon because the banks won't give us a mortgage because we're out of time. And all of a sudden it was like, even things like that, you're like, oh my goodness, a bank's not going to give me a 15-year mortgage if we're, planning to retire within 50. So little things like that, you start.
That's right. And a shock.
Yeah, you just didn't think that you realised you got there. So So when you work with clients and helping them to develop a positive mindset, and it's so amazing, it is, obviously the mindset thing, as we've talked about, is such a key point and a key thing for us to look at our strengths and change this perspective. And it all starts with our mindset. What tips can you share with us on how to create a more positive mindset and really take control of our thinking?
Great question. The best thing, and for me, this was a big thing as well, is awareness.
Yeah.
Because we know when we're being mean, we know when we're being kind, we know when often we live our life based on how we feel.
Yeah.
I feel happy. I feel sad. I feel like having a drink. I feel like buying that dress, even though I can't afford it. I feel like kicking the cat, even though it doesn't deserve whatever.
Yes.
But then we don't have the awareness around why am I feeling like that?
Right.
And work it back to the thought that creates a picture in the mind, creates that feeling.
Right.
And then we react to that feeling,
Yeah.
and then we get the behavior, which gives us the outcome, which is, if it starts as a negative thought, we get a negative picture, a negative feeling, a negative reaction, a negative outcome.
Yeah.
If we have the awareness and we can say, oh golly, that's not actually very beneficial for me, if I can pause for a moment and I say, imagine that you've actually, like, your brain's like a TV and you've got a remote control and you can press the pause button.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just press the pause button on that story that you're telling yourself, and say, well, let's stop and think. And I have an acronym for that, and this is really helpful. The T is for true. So you stop and you say, is what I'm thinking really true?
Yeah.
Is what I'm saying really true? And you might go, yes, it is. Yes, it is. It might be true for you, but it might not be a universal truth. Then it means that it's your idea or your suspicion. It's not necessarily a complete truth.
Yeah.
Then the H is this helpful? Is what I'm thinking right now helping me, or is it hindering me? Yeah. And if it's not helpful, then I should stop thinking it, because it's going to lead to a poor outcome. The I is for, is this inspiring? Am I inspiring myself? Mm-hmm. And what we said right at the beginning is that most of the time, no, we're picking on our faults.
Yeah.
Picking on what's wrong. So the THINK for think. The N is for, is this necessary? If you think of all the things that we say to ourselves that are just not necessary.
Yeah.
And if it's not necessary, then stop saying it.
Yeah.
And the K is this kind? Is what I'm thinking, is it kind to myself? Is it kind about the situation? Is it kind about the people or the person or whatever I've got the opinion on? So you press the pause button and you quickly do THINK.
Yeah.
And if the answer is no to any of those, then you say, okay, how can I turn this around?
Yeah.
And it sounds like a long process because it's taking me a few minutes to describe it. But literally now I do it on automatic pilot.
Yeah.
And I then can turn it around and go, well, it's not entirely true. It's what I'm telling myself. It's definitely not helpful or inspiring or kind. And actually it's not really necessary.
Yeah.
So how can I turn that around? How can I completely change this?
Yeah.
And then what you can do is you can actually use the body to change the mind as well, where the mind influences the body. Sometimes when we're feeling flat, like in the mind is negative. That's why doctors will often prescribe, I know it's huge in Scotland, I don't know what it's like here, but before they prescribe medication, they will give people a membership or 3 sessions at a gym or a workout class, a Zumba class or something.
Wow, that's great. I've never heard. I don't think that's done here. That's
isn't it? Oh yeah, no, it's
not that I've heard.
It isn't, because neuroscience has proven that we can use the body to shift the mind.
Yeah.
And because when you get the body going and you release the endorphins, you're listening to music, you're meeting people, people will say, oh, I can't be bothered going to the gym, but then they feel great when they come back, or cycling, whatever it is.
Yes.
So that's also another great NLP skill, is we can use the mind to shift the body when the body's feeling sluggish, but we can equally use the body to shift the mind.
Yeah. God, I wish they did do that here. Wouldn't that be just life-changing? Although how many people go, I don't know, but that's, but at least it's a start. I remembered a time after I had my son, I went into sort of some postnatal depression and things like that, and I had, a little bit of a challenging couple of years in trying to navigate all that, and, big life changes and questioning where, similar to what I'm going through now, questioning what I'm doing with my life and what have you. And I remember I went to a Zumba class up at the local gym. I think I just went and joined and thought, I've just got to do something, get out of the house and do something for me. And I remember going to the first Zumba class, and it was the great music and it was dancing, and I love to dance and I hadn't been dancing, all these things. And I remember crying in the Zumba class, like and it was a release. It was like this something that just came over me, and I'm like, I'm doing my Zumba, and tears are streaming down my face because it was just that. It was a big release to just all the endorphins and getting everything. And I used to go, it was at 2:00 on a Saturday, and I said to my family, I don't care what happens this week, I am not missing, like 2:00 on a Saturday is my time.
Secret.
Like I just had to, my whole life worked better if I went to the 2:00 Saturday Zumba class. And it was just that, the dancing and the fun and the connection with other people, and and it was just, I had to do that class, and it was such a turning point for me.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it. Okay, so to finish up, what is important for women entering their 50s to know and to do? One, go to 2:00 Zumba class. Go to the 2:00 Zumba class. But what else? What would you say?
Well, I think one of the things is that life is different for us than it was for our mothers or grandmothers. And I think we're in a very privileged time that we can start a business at the age of 50. I mean, I was 50 when I started my business. That we do have technology and a more open access to the world and to material and to learning and whatever. There are colleges and things for, like the Third Life College or something you can go in, you can get all sorts of courses. I mean, my sister's 60 now and she's just gone to do a history course. She loved history at school and then never did anything with it. And now she's going in once a week. She just goes and she's learning all history of different parts of the world and loving it. When your kids leave home, you actually get that freedom again.
Yeah.
Because then it's just you and your partner, or if you're separated, then it's just you, and you actually then have time to focus on yourself and you don't feel guilty or selfish, or it's actually a new beginning. Yeah. And this is what I like to get women excited about, is that forget about the looks and all the things on the outside, all the external stuff. Look on the inside about what fills you up and gives you joy, what makes you laugh, what do you enjoy doing. And Deepak Chopra wrote a book, Ageless Body, Timeless Mind. And it was back in the 90s, so it's an old book, but it's still relevant today. Yep. And he says, once you hit midlife, whatever age you see midlife as, for me it was 50, start the clock again. So when you're 51, imagine you're only 1 year old and you're a toddler and you're discovering. When you're 52, you're a 2-year-old and you're curious. When you're 53, you're finding your voice and you're saying no to everything, or you're speaking up, or you're, when you're 4, you're climbing those frames and jumping about on a swing and have that childlike attitude towards life, because you've got less responsibilities because your kids have moved on and maybe you're semi-retired or working part-time or whatever. But even if you are working, have that attitude. Yes. And this is again where it's an attitude of mind. Yeah. And it's an attitude towards your body. We can either see our body as getting old and saggy and unattractive and creased and lined and whatever, or we can see it as, well, I'm going to look after this body. These bones are going to keep me healthy, and these legs are going to keep me walking for another 30 years. So, I'm going to take vitamin C every day and walk the dog and swim and, but have that attitude of, I'm really going to look after myself now, that I'm a priority. Because what I realized was when I put myself first and I started to feel connected and happier and content and needed and had my purpose and meaning and everything, everybody around me benefited. Yes. My kids, because I was a happier mom, I was a happier wife, I was a nicer person to be around. Even from the money that I earn, they all benefit from the interesting stories I can share with them about life and my struggles and other people's struggles, or all of that. The positive ripple effect from all of that is huge. So I would say entering your 50s, see it as a new doorway, a new, like a rite of passage almost into the best time of your life.
Yeah. And like your sister's done, like gone, remember things you were interested in that you've put on hold for 40 years and get back into them.
Yes.
If you love them
Yes.
and when there is time,
Yes.
you've got different options to be learning and discovering and traveling and all these different things, but get back in touch with what makes you thrive and what keeps you happy, isn't
When
it?
I was young, I didn't learn to swim until late in life, and I've always had a fear of deep water. And being up in Scotland, you know, the North Sea, we never used to go to the beach or anything.
No, I lived in Scotland for 5 years, so I know exactly what it was like.
You know what it's like?
Yes, it's too
and
cold.
So in Sydney, living near the water, and my husband's out all the time. And so last year I thought, I'm going to challenge myself, because as a coach, I feel, you know, I need to keep sort of challenging myself and coaching myself through things. And I decided to take up kayaking.
Wow.
And I tell you, and I go 3 times a week. And through that, I have met this new group of friends. We're all mid-50s, kids have left home, all learning. We stay and have coffee. We, you know, so it's fitness, it's fun, it's new friends. I've just had so much from that.
Wow, yeah.
10 years ago, if you'd said to me, on your 50s, you're going to go kayaking, I'd have been like, no way. I would never have imagined it.
Yeah.
So it opens up a whole new, you need to be open, an open heart and an open mind.
Yeah, you need to step in and make these choices for yourself, rather than sitting there bitching and moaning and moaning and
which is the way I used to be.
Yeah.
And I tell you, nobody likes to be around someone like that, because it's depressing. And it's a shame, because when you're feeling depressed, you want attention, but because you're moaning, people stay away from you. And, you know, it's a self-fulfilling negative.
And we all go through those moments of having a bit of a moan when life, you know, throws us challenges, but it's it's not that constant. It's just, you want to support friends that are having a struggle and what have you. But, you know, we need to get moved on to, you know, more positive things and really take control.
And also because that's not good for the body. It's not good for the nervous system, or they say that a lot of physical illnesses come from the mindset.
Yeah.
And so again, the impact that it has is huge.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, such great words of wisdom from us women of wisdom. I'm going to take on women of wisdom now. I love that.
Yeah,
so
do.
I am. So now I'm going to go into our Rise Women final power questions, which we asked all of our guests. So, Anne, what do you wish every woman knew?
All you need is within you.
Oh, yes. I love that. That's very good. Very powerful and very, very wisdom-like.
Yes. We search outside, and it's all within us. Yeah. And actually, and another thing would be that the mind is very powerful. Stop letting it control you and start taking back control of it.
Yeah, absolutely. What is your superpower?
I think it's helping women believe in themselves and live the life they want to live.
Love it. Heels or flats? You heels or flats girl?
You know, I'm a flats girl because I'm very tall. I'm 5'8", and when I wear heels, I feel like
you're too big.
Too tall. Yeah. And I do like my comfort, so I run about in flats all the time.
Yeah, I'm 5'11". I still have to wear my heels. So, but I'm married. Really? I'm married tall, so that's good.
Oh, good.
Your favourite quote or rule that you live by?
So my favourite quote is another Deepak Chopra one, which I came across a long time ago and still live by. And he says, we all have a unique gift or talent, and when we use it for the service of others, we experience the ecstasy of our own spirit, which is the ultimate goal of goals.
Oh, that's powerful, isn't it? I love it. Yeah. What a rule
and
to live by.
And that's happened to me, that by playing to my strengths and using it in the service of others, I just feel life has so much meaning and purpose and all the things that we search for.
Yeah, absolutely. Who inspires you and why?
I'm very inspired by Jacinda Ardern at the moment, the New Zealand Prime Minister.
Yes.
I love her because I think when often women get into power, they try to be very masculine. They try to compete on a masculine basis, and then women don't like them and men don't like them because they don't really quite belong to either.
Yeah.
She is smart and capable and a decision maker and whatever, but she's also got that lovely, capable, caring, empathetic. She has shown the world that kindness is not weakness.
Yes.
And I love that.
Yeah. No, I do. I agree with you. She's an amazing role model for women, especially in that leadership role and who you can be, and that, as you say, kindness and caring and love can be part of strong leadership. Yeah. I love it. And the last one is finish this sentence, Anne. If I had even more confidence than I do now, I would
publish my memoir and start a professional speaking career.
Oh, wow. Okay, well, you're going to have to get yourself a coach and get onto that because we want to read that. That would be amazing. Oh, fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Anne. This has been such an inspiring conversation. And I love that we've been able to bring this to the world and to this podcast, because I think there are so many women at this time of life and what have you that are probably going through so much of the same questioning that we have both, gone through and going through. And it's good to talk about it. It's good to bring some of this to the forefront and give, like what you've done, give people really practical ways forward and really practical solutions to be able to help themselves move forward. So thank you so much for being part of the podcast today.
Oh, you're very welcome. Look, I love what you guys do too at Rise Women, and I love the podcast, and I know how much time and energy and effort and everything you put into making this happen, and I can hear the passion in your voice as well. So, and I think when we all work together, we all rise together, and I think it's so important what you're doing. I feel very privileged to be part of it. So thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. Yeah, we do love it. We do put a lot of work into it, but we do love it because it's such important conversations that get out to the world, and we get so much great feedback from listeners. So that just keeps the ball rolling and helps us to feel like we're doing that sense of purpose, as we're putting good into the world and supporting and helping women, all over the world. So we love it. We love it. And thank you to everyone for listening today. And remember, there are so many ways that we can help you become the confident woman you've always wanted to be. So please get in touch. We have a number of free downloads on our website, including a list of 30 plus ways to say no, which is a really valuable resource for so many women. Go to risewomen.com/free to access all our free content. And until next time, remember, with confidence, anything is possible. Bye-bye for now.